about the hiring. It's not about how many weeks a position stays vacant. It's that plus how long does that talent stay with you, and how does that talent progress within the ranks of your organization, so that the example of Silicon Valley of this morning is not repeated, where diversity is within one group of those companies' population, but as you go into the decision-making layers, it is not representative. And how do you measure success? There's diversity surveys. There's diversity-specific metrics that can be implemented as part of your employee engagement process. It is measuring employee engagement versus employee satisfaction. So there are simple tools that can be very helpful.
I would like to echo very much what Nicole said. I think if you see successes when you see diversity throughout your organization, very often it's the worker bees who are diverse. And I think our mayor has made some great remarks on that as well. We're great at hiring diverse people, but not very good at promoting them. So I think when you see diversity all around your organization, and how do you measure? I think there's a couple of things. If you see that a lot of people from diverse communities are applying to your position, if you are openly showing that you're open to hiring diverse, as Nicole said, do you have something on your website? We welcome people with international experience. I think that is a measure of success. And you will see when your employees, your diverse employees, feel confident in your organization to be who they are. And they're not clustering together and are all spread throughout your organization. I think these are some of the success measures we need to look for.
I would like to take that idea even further. And again, I'm trying to bring the executive room perspective. I will tie that satisfaction from an employee and engagement to business performance. And I think that is the key, because when you can connect that to an organization's bottom line, then it starts affecting a lot of other people. So creating a baseline is really important. And I think if we spend the time, we take a business unit, a department within our own organization, and just start doing that, that's going to improve our ability to build that awareness and create that desire. And the way to connect that is look at an organization that has top-line revenue impact and see if you can actually measure their performance. That's going to bring a lot of awareness to your organization. Spend the time, do it, and you're going to learn a lot from it. If you want to talk about it, I have done it with my organization, so I have some experiences to share, and I'm willing to learn from others because, again, this is an opportunity for all of us to learn from each other.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I can only speak from my experience. I can't go all fancy over it. But what I personally think is organization is successful in embracing multicultural workforce when they're flexible enough to try new things, to try to experiment with their workforce and incorporate these new ideas. But not only that, but if a company has their policies laid out and believing the concept of success through diversity. So thank you.
Great, thank you. And now I have a specific question for each of the panelists. So I'll start with Javier. Based on your experience, what can we do to encourage our leaders to be more inclusive? You know, it's challenging for many organizations to engage their leadership. The leaders sometimes say they're very busy with other corporate priorities. So based on your experience, Javier, what do you think we can do to influence the senior leaders?
Thank you, Anne-Marie. As I mentioned earlier, speaking their language is very important. Right? When we have a conversation, we want to speak a language that they understand. Like building that awareness, and I really love the idea of Nicole of using recent articles to just provide examples on how this is affecting other organizations, and really bring it to the executive room and talk about it, and really have those conversations individually, because when you look at the executive team, they have different priorities. Just to give you an idea, when I joined the organization, 50% of the executive team told me everything is fine, don't change anything. The other 50%, everything is broken, change everything, right? So it is extremely important for you to understand what's important for them, right? And if you can speak their language, because there are very different specialties. They're responsible for operations, for sales, marketing, HR, right? You need to connect with them at a very personal level. So I think if we can do that and encourage that from every other leader that is willing to go through this, we're going to start basically building that awareness that is going to drive desire.
Thank you, Javier. That's great, great advice. Jamie, I'll go next with you. So you speak about the importance of having welcoming and inclusive communities, and that our immigrants are great social capital assets and investment. We need to invest in them. We need to support them. Can you share with us maybe one or two examples of programs that work to support our newcomers?
Especially in the workplace. When we finally get so far that we're actually hiring people in our workplace, lots of immigrants, think about onboarding. In our community, in our workplaces, we have so many unwritten rules. It's like going somewhere and being blind. How do you know how people behave? Can we be more specific about these behaviors? What we expect from people? Great onboarding programs make people feel really, really welcome. The other one, of course, is mentoring programs in the community, and there is many. Go to any immigrant serving agency, they have mentoring programs. It not only helps you understand workforce, it builds one-on-one connections. It also exposes you to all this talent pool, a pipeline of talent for your organization. So I think these are two of some of the very interesting programs that will pay off, and actually it will pay off more, you will feel, than you give.
Thanks, Jimmy. That's a really good idea. In some organizations, I know that there's what they institute as the buddy system, right? So if you can find a colleague who can be a buddy for the new person. In some countries, orientation is not a 2-hour thing or a one-day thing. It could be multiple weeks. And it could be very challenging if all you give an employee who's new to the organization and new to a country only a couple of hours of orientation. So think about the ways that you can create a buddy system in the organization to support the employees. Thank you for that. Nicole, we know the talent pool is amazing, very engaging, supports lots of diverse populations. When you are talking about a multicultural workforce, you get the business case. And I think a lot of employers get the business case as well, but implementation is the difficult part of it. So from that perspective, what advice would you give employers about changing their recruitment practices to be more inclusive? Where would they start?
So first, my apologies to those of you that have heard me say what I'm going to say before, because it's like a broken record. We really work with a community, and it's a community of 228 organizations in Calgary alone. That's how many sources of support, of services, of help each one of us as an organization can rely on. And a few are here in the room, and certainly Jamie and Clip are a vital part. Your website. If I go onto your website in the next 10 minutes, will there be anything on it that is going to tell me that you are actually looking for a foreign trained international commercial lawyer? Probably not. Second, thinking within the concept of transfer of skills, is there anything on your website that is going to say, we welcome foreign trained international lawyers for our senior paralegal positions, we will train? Probably not. So the website is critical. After the website, the rest of the recruiting materials need to be congruent. Give you another very specific example, and Jamie alluded to it, and so did Javier, from a cultural component. Wellness programs, as private sector organizations, if you are experiencing what I have in my past corporate life, normally recruiting into wellness programs is not that simple. First of all, people perceive it as an added cost. Second, not that many corporations, organizations that are not large offer them because of the cost component. But when we do offer it, and when enrollment is not at the peak that we want, it doesn't even cross our radar, Anne-Marie, that the reason might be cultural. Many countries, including the one I came from 32 years ago, we don't know what a wellness program is because it's never existed. Plus, I'm not sure that I'm going to come to you and disclose that I would like to be enrolled in a wellness program because maybe I have to disclose a health issue. So we don't even start to think about some of the implications of our policies. Again, how are your HR policies? Are they truly inclusive? How are your behavioral questions framed? Are they framed for me, 32 years and a half and a Canadian? Or are they framed to me, 2 years and becoming a Canadian? How many of us in the room in an interview have ever said, I'm really looking for somebody that can hit the ground running? Have you ever tried to hit the ground running intentionally? The first time I heard the expression, it took me a few seconds to go, no, he can't be serious. It was a he at the time. I'm not supposed to throw myself on the ground. Simple, but not evident. Let's go back to the office. Let's look at our policies. Let's look at our procedures. Let's look at the website, at the recruiting materials. And let's do a diversity audit. Javier said something a while back, and it brought something to mind. Why do we stop when we hire someone? Why do we stop seeing that person as a customer? Being an employee does not mean that that person is no longer a customer of goods and services that are being provided. Actually, they're your best marketing ambassadors. So let's talk to them as a customer.
Great. Thanks, Nicole. And last, Abhishek, you were very passionate about the role of youth and the talents that they bring. And that's wonderful. That's very inspiring, actually. But in the workplace, sometimes we hear concerns about young workers, some stereotypes, not being as loyal as their elders, not willing to put in the time to succeed in their jobs, or even having unrealistic expectations. Do you agree with that? And, let us know your perspective and maybe how we can really engage our young workers.
I'm glad you asked me that. So first of all, teens who are below the age of 18, like me, they're not wanting to pursue a long-lasting career at this moment because they're prioritizing schooling. Second of all, the kids the youth or slash adults, now that they're above age 18, they do want to pursue a career, excuse me, but they also want to enjoy their life. But not only that, another changing factor which I personally think could be influential is that in some cases we have seen our parents or our grandparents, even after years and years of loyal service, being downsized due to the traditional way of job settings. So if we personally experience that or feel something like that, we would probably quit the job and move on with the job. So that's one thing which could be influential. And a strategy which I would like to introduce to you employers could be that engaging in what we find is interesting and meets our personal experience, but alongside that also letting us have a flexible timing so we can balance both our jobs and our life. So thank you.
Let's ask questions of the audience. Does anyone have questions?
Good morning. My name is Wayne Chiu. I'm a CEO for Trico Homes. I'd like to share some story on an SME perspective, small and mid-sized enterprise. First of all, I'd like to say that I love multiculturalism and I worship diversity. As an SME, we are a company, we have about 135 employees. I have to say that comprised of 13 countries. We have 25% of our workforce visible minority. We have over 51% of our workforce are women. Am I right, Micah? Yes, you are. We have 50% of our executive team are women. We have 33% of our executive team, they are visible minority, including myself. So what I like to say is so many things we can do, not just for the big company or big corporation. A lot of SME, hopefully in this meeting here, can hear our story and share the story of multiculturalism around your workforce. And I hope that this can turn out to be a great inclusive city or inclusive country that we can work in. Thanks so much.
Thank you. That's great. Thank you for being a role model for many companies.
You've all spoken so eloquently about diversity and inclusion and creating a multicultural workforce. But something that has been a total enigma to me, and this is from my work on CLIP, and Jamie will agree with me when she hears the rest of the story, is newcomers come into the country, they have the skills, they have the knowledge, they have the Canadian experience, and they do everything that the system asks them to do. They get into organizations, but they remain at the bottom rungs of the ladder, right? And they never get to be moved up that upper rungs of the ladder. It's the glass ceiling, or should I say opaque ceiling syndrome. So what is your perspective on diversity and leadership? And I know Javier and Jamie touched on that a little bit. I think it's just important, as all of you have said, that